Cześć i witam wam ponownie na moim kanale. Today we're going to be doing a tier list on language learning apps. There's a whole bunch of apps that I've tried over the years. I first started using language learning apps in around 2012, I think it was. Started off with Duolingo and then I went off and then started discovering more and more apps, and then obviously now we're at a point today where there's just so many apps to choose from. On this list here you can see we have S, A, B, C, D as the tiers. Let's get straight into the first app here. We're just going to go in order. Rosetta Stone is probably one of the first, if not the first, language learning app to be created. It's been around forever, way longer than I can remember, so obviously way before 2012. And to be honest, in 2012 when I first started looking at language learning apps, I thought Rosetta Stone was like the ultimate thing to get and to buy. And the more I looked into it, the more I saw reviews on YouTube, I slowly realised that actually it was not so good. And it was also super expensive. I don't know how much it is nowadays because I haven't looked in a while because it doesn't really bother me. But it used to be like £200 for like the course. I think maybe that's for one language. I don't really know. If you know more about the pricing, let us know down in the comment section below. Essentially, Rosetta Stone, back in the day, it was one of only a few options. And so a lot of people thought Rosetta Stone was like the way to learn a language. Unfortunately, it's very outdated and I just don't see much use in it. And so personally, from the trial versions I've tried and everything else, I'm gonna have to put Rosetta Stone in the D tier because I just don't see much use in it at all. Again, from what I've tried of it, from the trial versions and stuff, it really just isn't a great language learning app in my opinion. Plus, it's just super expensive. Next one here is Anki. I haven't used Anki all that much because it's a flashcard app and I don't really use flashcard apps because they're not fun for me, and for me they're not really that effective. And I don't know, like since I discovered like reading is one of the best ways to learn a language, I just decided that reading was the way to naturally gain vocabulary, and flashcards were basically made redundant at that point in my language learning career, or journey I guess I should say. And so by the time I discovered Anki, I was already too far through the language learning journey to actually want to do flashcards. I have tried it, and you know what really annoyed me about Anki? One, you had to pay for it, which is whatever to be honest, because it wasn't that expensive. I think it's like £30 or something like that if I remember correctly. But two, also you have to create your decks, and to do that it just takes so long, and it's like the amount of time you waste creating a deck, you could be spending that time, you know, doing something else in a language that's more productive in my opinion. And then even after you've got your deck, you can just go through your flashcards obviously, but again I don't find that personally like a good use of time. And because it is a flashcard based app, I can't really rate it that high. I will however say that a lot of people do enjoy using flashcards and they find it fun, and so because of that, like I have to take that into consideration a little bit. Even though this is my list, I'm trying to take into consideration the usefulness of the apps and everything as well. And with all that in mind, I think I'm going to put Anki in the B tier for now. It just feels to me like a lot of people like to use it. Personally, I'm not a fan, but I understand that people do find flashcards fun. Maybe it genuinely does have its uses. For example, when you're trying to learn kanji in Japanese, there's a whole ton of them, and possibly by using flashcards, which is something I haven't even attempted with kanji yet in Japanese. Tandem is a really interesting app actually. It's very similar to HelloTalk, which is also somewhere on this list as well. It's like Facebook Messenger or something along those lines. You just talk to people, there's nothing more to it, but it connects you with a partner which you are learning their language and they're learning your language. So for example, I'm meeting someone who is a native in Polish or in Japanese, and then they're meeting me because they're wanting to learn English, and then we exchange conversations. We talk to each other, you can edit each other's errors and that kind of thing in conversation. So to be honest, it's a really good app. The majority of people are really nice on there, and I've never really actually come across anyone who's like horrible or whatever. I don't really know what else to say. It's literally just a texting app, or you can also send voice messages and that kind of thing. I think Tandem is a really good app in my opinion. I'm going to put Tandem in the A tier for now because I genuinely believe Tandem is a really good, useful app. I have learned some really cool phrases from there, especially in Japanese where it was really hard for me to get going. Next one on the list is DeepL, or DeepL maybe. All it is like a Google Translate kind of thing, but it works really well compared to Google Translate in my opinion, especially for certain languages. For example, Japanese, it has more accurate translations than Google Translate, and that's all I need to say about that one really. So I'm going to put this one in the A tier. Language transfer. I really enjoy language transfer because it's simple. It's not a language learning app like the others. You don't really do anything in terms of like games or anything like that. all it is an app where you have a few languages and you select one of the languages if you're learning that language, and then it's just a whole bunch of audio files. And basically it's like a course like Michel Thomas, but I genuinely think that Michel Thomas is not as good as language transfer. And language transfer basically just breaks down the language in a way where it becomes really digestible for you to understand a lot of the key points in a language from the very beginning. And so they have languages like Spanish, German, Italian, Greek, Swahili, Arabic, and there's a few others as well. And especially for my Spanish and my French, language transfer has been phenomenal for just helping me understand some of the more key points of grammar, as well as just understanding how to transfer language from English into those languages. And I get that language transfer may not be for everyone. Maybe some people just can't sit down and listen to audio tracks and like understand everything. Maybe some people need to be more hands-on. I get that, like, obviously none of these language learning apps are going to be for everyone. Unfortunately, that's just the way that things work because everyone's different. But I will say for me personally, it's a really useful app. It's not as fun as some of the others, but definitely really useful in my opinion. I will say it gets really difficult really quick. So even in like the Spanish course, I'll get to like halfway through the course and all of a sudden I'm a little bit lost. So maybe it's just me and I'm not properly paying attention. Maybe it's because I listen to it while driving, and he does say not to do it while driving and specifically to do it while you're sitting down at home listening to it. So with all that in mind, I'm going to put language transfer in the A tier above both of these apps. Actually, I'm going to put it right up there because I really do think it's very useful. In French, especially for my first week of learning French, it really propelled my French learning a lot. You know, I learned a lot of French very quickly, and this app very much helped me with that. Duolingo. I don't like Duolingo particularly. There's one feature I really like, which is the scripts on Duolingo. The stories, they used to have it better. They've now done it so the stories, it's harder to access. There's not as many stories from what I can see. And also, I don't know, they just changed up the app so that one of the better features, which is reading the stories, is now not as accessible. I think Duolingo as a whole, it's got worse. Actually, after the update, the issues I have with Duolingo is that it teaches you really bad sentences that just don't become useful as you learn them, and also the annoying heart system, which in my opinion, as I've always said with Duolingo, is that it just discourages people. Once you lose your 5 hearts, you literally can't learn on that app until you buy some more hearts or buy the pro version or whatever. Unless you use the desktop version, then you're okay with that. Some of the harder languages, such as Chinese for example, good luck trying to not lose your 5 hearts for that. I find that really discouraging. I find the sentences that you learn not that useful, and so it's a waste of time in my opinion. I used it for extensively a long time, like 6 or 7 years, and then I just decided to give up, and I learned not that much in that time considering how long I spent on it. So I can't give it that high of a rating. I know that people enjoy it. I would personally put it in the C tier. I couldn't really recommend it. Actually, I'm going to put it in the C tier. I don't care. I don't like it when I always see people starting up a language learning journey and they always default to Duolingo like every single time, and then I see people making the same mistakes that I do with Duolingo being the only resource for them to learn a language, and they don't understand that there are so many other ways to learn a language. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing this on YouTube, is because I'm trying to, I guess, spread awareness of other apps and other ways to learn language, and for people to try new things. Duolingo on its own is fun for a while, but it very quickly gets boring in my opinion. You can't just say because something is a little bit gamified, it's a little bit fun, it's better than all the rest. It just doesn't work like that. Obviously it helps with motivation if it's more fun, and to be honest, like, I don't know many serious language learners who do enjoy Duolingo. But like I say, there are some good, decent features on the app, so I do put it in the C tier over the D tier. Google Translate, I've already spoken about DeepL, and so in that I did say Google Translate was not as good. It's become better, like, I'm still going to have to put it in the B tier. It's become better than what it was, say, when I was back in school. Back when I was in school, it was terrible and like so many different mistakes, and it would be difficult for it to understand the context you're trying to speak in. Nowadays, Google Translate is a lot better. It will even give you like differences between masculine and feminine, and you know, things like that, at least in like Spanish and French. I don't know about some of the other more obscure languages it has. In general, Google Translate is pretty average. A lot of people use it for like translating words and sentences. I can't fault it really, but it could be a lot better, and I think DeepL just has a better translation algorithm on their system. HelloTalk. It's, to be honest, the exact same as Tandem. From what I've used of HelloTalk, I've used more Tandem than I have HelloTalk, but what I've used of HelloTalk, it's just not as fun for me. I'd put it a little bit underneath Tandem, but only like a smidgen, but realistically, they're basically the same thing. meet other people, speak on the app. But I did find it harder to find people to speak with on HelloTalk, so maybe not as many people use it. I'm not sure, but yeah, I found it quite difficult to find people. Memrise. I used to use Memrise a lot alongside Duolingo when I first started up my language learning journey in like 2012 or that sort of time. You know, I liked it for a long time, I really did, and then out of nowhere, like I just discovered other language learning apps and I just decided that Memrise wasn't it really. Like, it's good because it's free, you have a whole bunch of languages at your disposal, and there's also other things that not just languages on there, but obviously if we focus on language, Memrise is okay. It's a flashcard app. You know, I can't again rate it so much because it's flashcards and I don't really like flashcards that much. It's also community based as far as I'm aware, so you can just create your own flashcards, add your own audio, and then other people can use your decks as well, which is good because obviously it means there's so much content on there, but it's also bad because things aren't regulated, so you don't know if you can trust the translations, and that's quite a big thing if you're trying to learn a language. You obviously want to have accurate translations. I'm going to put Memrise in the B tier. I'm going to put it underneath Google Translate. Actually, I'm going to put Google Translate above Anki, looking at this. Netflix. Obviously not a language learning app per se, but you can use it for language learning, and so that's why I put it in here. Netflix is obviously really good. Most people who are watching this video probably have used Netflix, and so you probably realize that you can watch Netflix series in other languages. Now, especially with Netflix's new feature where you can search by language, it makes this so much easier for you. There are also extensions and add-ons you can do with like Google Chrome where you can have next to each other like by subtitles, and so you can have like your target language with English. And yeah, like I think overall is if you use just Netflix for like learning languages, you can learn quite a decent amount. Obviously there's no like test or anything like that, not like you need it, but you know, it's just watch and enjoy yourself. And because it's an enjoyment factor, I think it works so much better than some of these others where it's more of a test. Enjoyment is one of the main factors when it comes to learning a language, and so for that reason I'm gonna have to put it in the A tier. I'm gonna put it there. I think it's more useful to speak to people on apps like HelloTalk and Tandem, but obviously they need to be used at certain points during your language learning journey anyway. It's not quite S tier because I mean you can only learn so much, I guess, but yeah, overall like Netflix is a pretty decent tool that I use when I get the option to. Pimsleur, very outdated. I've only used it a little bit. You know, I haven't really bought many of the language packages on there because I never really got along with it so well. I know a lot of YouTubers say really good things about Pimsleur, so I'll take that into consideration a little bit. I will say I haven't really used Pimsleur all that much. I really need to trial out like an entire language course in there to really give it a proper opinion. But from what I know of Pimsleur and from what I've seen of other people talking about it, I'm gonna have to just put it in the B tier. I'll put it above all three of these apps actually. I'll put it right there above Google Translate in the B tier. Like I say, maybe it'll be higher if I actually used it for an entire course. There's a whole bunch of languages to choose from, so that's a good thing. There's a decent selection of languages on there. I just don't think it's the most fun way to learn a language, but then neither are some of the others that are on here either, so I don't know. Like I say, maybe I'll make another one of these in the future when I've tried out a few more of these language learning apps a bit more in depth. Babbel. I really enjoy Babbel. I have the full version of Babbel because there was a huge discount one time and I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna pay like whatever it was, £60, £70, whatever, to buy all of the languages. I saw there was like 9 languages on there, so I decided to buy all of them just to see how the app went, and obviously I had the money and I really don't regret it. Babbel is a really decent app in my opinion. I just think it's really in-depth with all of its languages that I've tried out, at least. Obviously I haven't tried some of the other languages like Indonesian or Russian or whatever. The languages that I have tried on there like Polish and Spanish, and I've looked at French and German and some of the others, it will take you like a long time to complete. Like it's taken me a couple years so far to get to the point where I am in my Polish, and I still haven't completed it. There's still a whole bunch of courses on there. If I really tried, I could maybe complete it by the end of this year. The only issue that I have with it is the games, but besides from the games, I think it's a really decent app, and I feel like I want to put it in the S tier. It's just one I enjoy to use, and when I go through a period of using Babbel, I can use it for quite a while, and I feel like I learn a lot when I'm using Babbel. Ling. I recently made a video about Ling. My overall opinion on Ling was that it was just in the B tier sort of area, like it was average. I said in the end that it was like I have no fors or against for it really, like I'm just in the middle. Obviously there are things that I didn't like about the app, there were things I liked about the app, but it all sort of just balanced out into like the middle. I just didn't really find it the best app to use. There are so many other better apps out there, but it does have some interesting languages on there. I'm going to move it above Google Translate, I think. Yeah, if you want to know more about that, go check out my video on Ling italki. That's going straight up in the S tier. I don't know many people who would say bad things about italki. It's not really an app as such, although there is an app for it, but mostly you would use it on a desktop because it is just basically meeting up with tutors, paying the tutors for an hour session or half an hour or hour and a half or whatever to sit down and just learn about that language. They're obviously teachers who are from the country typically of the language you're trying to learn, as you sit down and you speak with them about the language, in the language, and they will typically help you through. Obviously some tutors may not be as good as others. It is, you know, a platform where there are all these people who just sign up to be tutors from all around the world, and so obviously you'll get some who are really good, some who may not be as good. I've never met like a bad tutor on there. I've always had really good tutors, but I have also checked out the profiles, made sure they had good reviews, made sure that the videos, they seemed really engaging, really nice, really friendly. And so you got to do a little bit of research, I guess, before you book a tutor. Obviously you've got to look at the pricing as well and see if it fits your pricing. I've met some incredible people on there, and yeah, I can't really say anything bad about italki like whatsoever. LingoDeer, especially good for Asian languages, but they do also have like Spanish and French and some other European languages. I don't know what other languages they have, but they got a decent selection of languages. To be honest, I haven't used it all that much, but every time I do use it, like it's a really fun app to use. I find it's more fun for me personally than like something like Duolingo, and I also do find I come away from it learning more than I do with other apps. I think I'm going to put it here below language transfer, above Tandem. Busuu, I haven't used Busuu all that much. From my understanding, it's very similar to Babbel. It has some languages that Babbel doesn't. Maybe it doesn't have languages that Babbel has as well. So there are yins and yangs of Babbel and Busuu. I've used Babbel extensively, and so obviously that's why I'm a little bit biased when I say I put it up in S tier. Busuu I haven't used all as much, and so I'm going to have to just put it in the A tier at the bottom, because I understand that a lot of people do like Busuu and enjoy it, but I'm going to put it there for now because I need to use it more. Busuu is just one that I've never got around to being able to use properly, but again, I've used the free trials of it, and it seems like there's a lot of potential. I just haven't got around to properly using Busuu like for an entire course, so I got to put it there because I understand that other people also rave about Busuu and say that it's a pretty decent app. Skritter, all in all, I've used it for a few hours to help me like understand some Japanese kanji. I haven't really used Skritter for much more than that. I'm trying to look now where I would put it on my list, and I'm sort of struggling a little bit to understand where to put it. I'm going to put it there underneath Netflix in the A tier. There's a lot in the A tier, I understand. Maybe I'll rejig this in a second. Drops, I didn't find all that much use in it, to be honest. I found it very dull and mundane. I'm going to put Drops above Rosetta Stone. It seemed like it was a really good app when it was advertised, but it didn't really give me much, to be honest. And so, yeah, Drops has to go there above Rosetta Stone. Reverso Context is decent enough, but all it is really is that if you want to see a word or maybe a phrase in a sentence, then you type it in on Reverso Context and it will tell you how that word is used in a sentence. So it gives you context with words and phrases. The only thing I would say is that the phrases it gives you are very random, and a lot of the time they're ridiculously like business related. Like they don't seem to be like your everyday sentences for the most part. From what I find, they're always, you know, to do with like, I don't know, just business talk, or they have some ridiculously high level of language. And obviously, just as most of these other apps are as well, there is a paid version. I've never paid for it, I never will. There is like a free version just to basically see 3 or 4 sentences, and it's enough to sometimes get the idea of how a word is used. With the introduction of ChatGPT, for me personally, Reverso Context is a little bit less useful because you can just ask ChatGPT and it'll probably give you more accurate answers and examples with that. And just thinking about that, I should have put ChatGPT on this list as well, but I forgot. Maybe for the next list I do. I'm going to put Reverso Context underneath Duolingo. I think it's not as useful, maybe. Mango Languages, another one that I haven't really properly looked at, to be honest with you. I can't lie about this. I have seen a lot of people say some good things about Mango Languages. I know there's a decent selection of languages on Mango Languages, and so obviously that's a good thing as well. I have trialed it with a couple languages and I thought there was a decent potential there. Because I don't have the money, I just can't trial it like with some of these others. I'm going to put Mango Languages in the B tier, I think. I'm going to put it above Pimsleur. I don't know. It seems to me like Mango Languages personally would be more useful than Pimsleur. but I could be wrong. That's just my opinion for now. LingQ, we all know where we're putting LingQ. I really enjoy LingQ. I'm going to put it up there. LingQ is an app where you basically just read and you can also listen, and you get direct translations in all of like 40 different languages. I've never counted how many languages are on LingQ, but there's a decent amount. And if it wasn't for LingQ, my Polish wouldn't be anywhere near as good as it is now. If it wasn't for LingQ, I wouldn't understand as many Japanese kanji as I do now, and I wouldn't be as advanced in my Spanish with the vocabulary that I know. Yeah, I just got to give LingQ so many props. I mean, I know I've already spoken about it in a lot of videos anyway, and I don't like to sound like a broken record, but I mean, it is just a decent app. You do have to pay for it, but I think it's so worth it. And it's like the one app out of all of these I can truly say that LingQ can get you from the very beginner level, from knowing nothing in a language, all the way up into like a really decent level. Obviously, it's as good as you make it. I do my best to try and use LingQ as much as possible because I just find so much value in LingQ. And yeah, Steve Kaufman was just such a genius to create LingQ, and they're always evolving it as well. It's always being updated, so it's less clunky and more modern and more easier to use, and there's more content on the languages that are on there. The fact that you can import articles from online as well, it just overall a really good app to use. And again, I did a language learning review on that app, so if you want to learn more about LingQ, there's a video somewhere on screen. We have one more app here, which is called Lingo Legends. I enjoy Lingo Legends. It's a game where you have to answer certain things correctly. If you answer them wrong, you'll take damage. If you answer them right, you'll deal damage to the enemy that you're fighting. And it's just a way to gamify language learning. I don't find the actual content itself very like engaging in terms of like, I don't know if you learn so much. There are certainly a couple French phrases and Japanese phrases that I can remember from using it, but mostly it's just fun for me. Screw Duolingo, because Duolingo is just like really boring, and like I say, like maybe it's because I've used it for so many years, but Lingo Legend to me like just seemed a lot more fun. It's basically just, how do you translate this phrase into this, or this word into that, or whatever. Like, it's quite simple stuff. In terms of how much you learn, I'm not really too sure. I can remember much. I can remember a couple of phrases, but nothing too much. But it's fun, and so I'm going to put that above Ling. I am going to move Babbel underneath italki. I genuinely think if you used exclusively italki or exclusively Babbel, italki is going to give you a lot more benefit. It's potential you could even swap italki with LingQ as well. Italki and LingQ are like hand in hand for me, like some of the best apps out there to learn a language. I'm going to move Memrise down, and I'm going to move Context Reverso there, and I'm going to move Duolingo there. I'm going to move language transfer up into the S tier. The fact that language transfer is free, completely free, and most of the other apps on here you have to pay for, is enough for me to say, you know what, it's free language learning. I find it really useful, so you can't complain. The fact that it's, you know, not all that fun because it's completely free. You can use it. If you don't like it, just delete the app. I think there's a lot of information in there. For the amount of information that they teach you for completely free, it deserves S tier in my opinion. And I think that's it. I'm happy with that list, I think. There's nothing else that I would really change at this moment in time without trying out some of these apps more. The only potential thing I might change is putting Mango down one, because I understand that a lot of people really enjoy Pimsleur and find a lot of fun from Pimsleur. And it may be, if I ever get around to using Pimsleur, I could move it up into the A tier. That is my language learning tier right there for language learning apps. If you agree or disagree or have any other opinions, let me know down in the comment section below, or click on the link in the description. I'm going to put the link in the description and you can go ahead and do it yourself. Maybe send me a photo on Twitter or something. I don't know, like I don't really use Twitter, but if you want to send me a photo on Twitter, you can go ahead, because of my Twitter's in the description as well, and you can follow me there if you like. That's going to be everything for this video. Dziękuję wam bardzo za oglądanie. Życzę wam miłego dnia I do zobaczenia. Pa pa!